The third normal form follows a similar pattern to the second normal form, but instead of checking against the individual components of a composite primary key, we'll check each non-key column against every other non-key column. Here, we're looking for columns that are functionally dependent on another piece of information that isn't the primary key. This often occurs when two fields are simply stating the same thing in a different way. For instance, you might try and store state and state abbreviation in an address table. Since state abbreviation is entirely dependent on the state, or vice versa, one of those two fields should be removed from the table. Here's another example using our Explore California tour company. In the table about the various tour packages, we are storing a difficulty rating as both a numeric rating and a text description of what that number means. You can see that a difficulty of easy should always correspond to a rating of 1, and a difficulty of difficult should always correspond to a rating of 5. However, there is nothing really preventing us from accidentally putting in a difficulty of easy and a rating of 5. The database would be fine with that designation, even though it doesn't make sense to the business information we're trying to model. We should move one of these columns out of the tour package table and into its own table in order to prevent these types of anomalies from occurring. Now, which one we move really doesn't matter. There's a very slight performance gain to be had if we keep the number rating in the tour package table and only store the text a single time. So let's pull out the text description and leave the numerical designation in the tour package table. Now we simply create a new table that will match up the number with the corresponding description. The major advantage to this system is that it makes global updates really easy. If, for instance, we wanted to change the flavor of the description from difficult to strenuous, we simply make one change in the tour difficulty table rather than having to go through the entire tour table and update every occurrence. Sometimes the solution to third normal form is to just stop storing the alternate form of the data. There are many instances when the same information can be calculated or derived by the DBMS, and it doesn't need to be stored at all. This example wouldn't work with the tour difficulty or state abbreviation situations that we just saw, but let's take a look at where this technique might be useful when storing an employee's middle initial. In this case, we have a violation of third normal form because the middle initial column isn't dependent on the primary key. It's depending on the middle name column. Another way of saying this is that the middle name determines the middle initial. One solution is to create a new table of all of the names throughout the company and their corresponding initials. This is the approach that we took with the tour difficulty ratings. While this would work, every time you add a new employee, you'd also have to check the initials table to see if their particular name was already there and add it if it wasn't. You can see that this probably is not a really good solution in the long term. Instead, let's let the computer work for us and just stop storing the initials altogether. All DBMSs provide the capability of performing simple text extractions using functions or other programming code. So throughout our system, whenever we require the middle initial, we'll simply instruct the database to just use the first character from the existing middle name column, and our problem is solved. The bonus here is that we don't have to manage another table, and we won't have any chance of a discrepancy showing up where the middle name is Tony, but the middle initial is M. So here's the third step of normalizing your database design. Go through all of your tables and check each non-key field against every other non-key field. Look for fields that aren't specifically about the key, but are instead dependent on another field. If you find any, move them out or get rid of them altogether if possible. Compliance with third normal form is typically considered a great place to get for many business database systems. There are additional normal forms beyond 3NF, but they're of increasing obscurity and complexity. For many, getting to 3NF will solve 90 to 95% of the problems that can cause issues with your database's performance.